Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Blue Mondays, the GLORIO Blog's Eureka 7 recap podcast. I am your host, as always. I'm Zigg, and I'm joined by my faithful teammates, my wingers, my attacking midfielders on this journey. There is, of course, the lovely Aqua guys. Hello, Aqua.
I am the regista. That's a football term that I don't know what it means.
What is a register?
I have no idea. I know it's like a position in football.
How do you spell it?
Like register, but with an A instead of ER at the end?
This might be a continental thing. I have never heard the term register before in that context.
Let us know in the comments.
Sounds suspiciously Italian.
Yes, Regista in G, my favorite late era Tomino Gundam.
Featuring character designed by Kenichi Yoshida. Yes, that is G, as you can hear there. How are you doing, G?
I don't know fucking shit about football or soccer, but I do know what works. All offense, no blockers, no defense. Let's get in there.
That's exactly how every game of football ends up being played. Yes,
everybody... we got half the team standing in the back. What are we doing? We could have twice the guys upfield.
The funny thing is, this is the exact opposite of how most football games happen nowadays, which is all defense. Offense is for cowards.
I mean, wasn't the theory for a long time that America couldn't get involved in football because you maybe only score once or twice in 90 minutes?
Yeah.
I feel like I heard that a lot back in the 90s.
I think that is definitely a stereotype that gets bandied about. One that would not surprise me if it were true. I guess I think of the other major American sports, and I guess they are all relatively high, actually pretty high scoring.
Yeah, if you compare it to basketball, where there's a point being scored every 5 seconds.
I mean, basketball, a sport famous for finishes where the game can turn around in literally less than a second. It's
also the final 20 seconds of a basketball game are the longest 20 seconds in human history.
Yes. Can't deny those allegations.
Also, I would like to point out that no matter how boring football is, it could never be more boring than baseball, the most boring sport in the universe. I say that as somebody who very much enjoys baseball. It is absolutely the most boring sport in the universe.
I don't know, it's a common continental saying that football is a game with one ball, 22 players, and in the end the Germans win with one ball.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, now that we've got all the football cliches out of our system, let's go ahead and actually get to what we're talking about. We are talking about episodes 19... No.
Nope.
We are talking about episode 39, Join the Future, and episode 40, Cosmic Trigger. One of these episodes is kind of important. One of them is about football. I'm not saying that those things are necessarily always mutually exclusive, but, well, we'll see. Let's begin with talking about episode 39, Join the Future, and talk about the reason why we are all making a bunch of bad football jokes to begin with there. But we have a special bonus feature this week, which is because I have been away at a convention and my entire body is destroyed, I have tasked Aqua with explaining the musical references for this week. So, Aqua, would you please tell us about Join the Future?
Cue the boring comedy explanation music.
No, we can't afford that. We'll have to go with the yakety sax instead.
Yes. So, Join the Future is, in the first place, a rather noticeable blog that blogs about this specific kind of musical scene, right? A sort of late 80s, early 90s intelligent dance music scene. And the blog was named after a song by a musical project called Tough Little Unit, which was released in January 1991. And it is sort of like many tracks that inspired Eureka 7 episode titles. This was another short-lived collaboration between some guys who were active in the Northern English techno scene who like decided to get together and release some music together. So like they released like a couple of split LPs before disappearing into the void of history.
My understanding is this is how a lot of electronic music works, honestly, yes.
So this track was, as I mentioned, released in January 1991. It is sort of seen as like the last hurrah of a type of dance music called bleep and bass, which is, I mean, that's basically sounds like, that basically sums up what this sounds like. You know, you have your very deep, complex bass lines. You know, if you look it up on YouTube, a bunch of guys in the comments are like, "Oh, this is perfect to test your subwoofer with." Yeah, it is that genre of music combined with like the very futuristic sounding like bleepy bloops. That
computer music,
yes,
as it was called, as distinct from electronic music,
right? And the idea was that this was sort of the last quote-unquote great track in that genre before the pivot to more, I want to say more like intelligent dance music, and that sounds like an insult, but that's literally what they call it, because
I mean, more like modern trance techno stuff.
Something,
kind of,
well, not necessarily. The thing is, like, this is, Tough Little Unit was like three guys, Glyn Andrews, Isaiah Hill, and Sean Mayer, or Maher, however you pronounce it. And they were all like close friends of the founder of a record label called Warp Records. And Warp Records is actually pretty interesting because they were sort of the label that started releasing electronic music as modern consumer music, as in they did not only release vinyls for DJs to play in clubs, but they actually like released full albums and music that was intended to be listened to at home rather than just being blasted at clubs to dance to.
Sure.
Right?
So kind of like the beginning of electronic music. Well, I shouldn't say the beginning because some smart ass will pop up in the credits, but kind of like a mainstreaming of electronic music as music you would actually listen to, as opposed to just kind of like background club bangers.
And the media actually called this IDM, or intelligent dance music, right? So we're talking about them signing people like Aphex Twin, Autersche, Square Pusher, noted anime composer Flying Lotus. So this kind of like very complex, layered electronic music that was like stuff you could listen to on headphones, but not necessarily dance to at the club.
Sure.
Right.
One thing I wanted to ask is you talk about how this is like Join the Future is the name of an influential music blog.
Yes.
Do you know if that blog would have existed in 2005 when the show was airing?
I'm not sure, actually. I think it is just that the blog was named after the song because it does have a certain reputation in, you know, these kinds of circles as this kind of pivotal moment where dance music evolved from, quote unquote, merely being something you dance to at the club to like a music connoisseur could enjoy this, right?
Yeah. I mean, like we've heard a lot of songs that have titled episodes of the show centered around that early 90s Manchester scene there.
Yeah.
So
the thing that made this interesting to me is because Warp Records continued to like play a role in the 2000s, and they were sort of like the record that made it cool to mix electronic music with indie rock. So they were sort of at the forefront of that kind of hybrid that would become like the big thing in 2000, in like the mid 2000s. Like Thom Yorke from Radiohead famously bought the entire Warp Records back catalog as they were making Kid A, the like big
now I see why you were so interested in this.
Yeah, as the like big like rock band goes electronic pivot that sort of ushered in the 2000s. So yeah, and like in the years since, Warp have been continued to be influential in all sorts of genres, including hip hop. They have released stuff by Danger Mouse, and they have released perhaps most famously Seabat by Hudson Mohawk, aka the Clown Sex song.
Okay, you say famously.
I mean, okay, you have to be a certain sort of terminally online, but yes, I know what Huck was talking about.
Like, I am a terminally online person, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're clearly not online enough.
And furthermore, I do not need to know either. I do not want to know, nor do I need to know. Let's move on to the episode itself here. The episode itself begins with the Gekkostate crew doing what they do best, lying around like dirtbags.
But no, you see the wise, super powerful monk Norb told them to. So
yeah, there really isn't much more to the beginning of this episode than Gekkostate pulling up in this random city, which I should point out the city is called Liverchester, which, you know, for those of you who are not aware, Liverpool and Manchester are two of the most famous footballing towns in the UK. So this is a very on the note. They also hate each other, so this is perhaps not something that would actually happen. But yeah, there's not really much more to the start of this episode than Norb saying, "Hey, maybe you guys should play some football." And a lot of this episode is everyone else trying to work out why they should do that.
I think what is like so delightful and like what makes this such a like hilarious swerve at this point in the story, right, is the like rapidity with which they just paper over any like attempt to like reasonably explain or justify this episode. Like, yeah, there's a little bit like Norb, like, because it's not even Norb, it's like it's Holland, right? Holland is the one who is actually like spearheading this,
like,
because he has chosen to interpret Norb's like incoherent yawning as the gospel that they have to play football to improve their sync rates.
And and Norb just kind of can't be bothered to correct him, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, Holland is here. He sees that they have had 50 episodes, and they're like, wait a minute, I've completed a full character arc. We're probably in the last stretch of show before, you know, the big finale, and we haven't had a sports episode yet? Let me justify this.
Yeah, this is, in another universe, this is a baseball episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, undoubtedly.
It is there. But I think there's just some fun, goofy stuff here. You know, there's everybody gets a change of clothes, so we get a whole bunch of the cast in stupid green gecko-themed football uniforms. We get Kengo and Gonzi in referee outfits. We get Holland in an impressively try-hard tracksuit.
Yes,
it's all a good fun.
The thing is, like, as a nice illustration of how dense I am, the entire episode I was like, hey, why isn't Talho playing with them? Did she blue ball Holland into being like, I'm not being a part of this bullshit, you know, you go ahead, but I'm sitting this one out. And it's only at the very end of the episode that I realized, oh right, she's pregnant.
Okay, but I choose to believe that she didn't play not because she's pregnant, but because she's not stupid.
Yeah.
So
I think it's so goofy that, like, I mean, obviously it's just for the joke, right? But like them playing up like how out of shape the entire Gekkostate is. Like, you think, like, I don't know, like, you know, again, we talk about our sometimes are like stack rank the Gekkostate by arbitrary metrics. I would have assumed that, like, I don't know, Matthew and Hilda would have been in like an okay shape, but even them getting winded after a little bit of running is really funny.
Hey, I mean, they do most of their fighting when seated in giant robots.
Sure.
I mean, I'm assuming piloting a giant robot is like driving a Formula One car, right? You have to be pretty physically fit in order to operate a machine like that.
Yes, and also we have seen that actually the Gekkostate do quite a bit of on-foot fighting as well. But again, it's just because it's funny.
It's funny, exactly.
You know,
and what makes it even funnier is that Doggy is the best one out of all of them.
Yes, like that is.
Renton would be the best if he knew how to pass.
Oh my god, the fucking Renton not knowing how to, like, some fucking Zoolander can't turn left shit.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god. Now that you've said that, I will never be able to watch this episode again.
Like the explanation, actually, Renton is really good at, like, individual ball tricks for the saddest reason, which is he liked to play soccer by himself.
Yes,
because
that's
his town didn't have a team.
That's what I was going to say. The dark undertone of this is that Renton cannot pass because he never had friends. And so they just loop the same 3 animation frames of him pulling the ball back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's...
I have to say, like, part of what makes this episode so entertaining is that it looks kind of janky.
Yeah, it's also not a great looking episode.
I mean, I think it occasionally looks pretty good, but yes, everybody looks a little bit off model.
I mean, there's the infamous shot later in this episode where Eureka is kicking a football that is like the size of, like, I don't know, a cantaloupe or something.
Yes.
Or like the often repeated shot where they like shoot the ball at the goal and then there's like jobs.png being dragged horizontally across the screen.
Yeah,
Speaking of .pngs, there's also Hap's 2-footed drop kick where he basically, it's just like you're sliding a JPEG across the screen there, but it's very funny.
Sometimes less frames is funnier.
Yes, and to be clear, I don't think that this episode is ever so poorly animated that it's actively bad. There's some good freakish faces here.
Yes.
I want to especially highlight Renton and Eureka jumping off of Holland's face in perhaps the most Looney Tunes bit of animation.
It's very good.
This just turns into Blitzball.
Yes. I also want to point out the kind of attention to detail that this show thrives on there, which is Eureka has jersey number 7, and I think that's very funny because I'm impossibly basic.
Yes.
I just think it's very funny.
I didn't notice that.
Yes, no, she is number 7. Renton is number 8 there. But yes, there is once again a recovery of the secret Holland secret Renton Moondoggy rivalry, which keeps coming up for some reason, and there is Moondoggy screaming a different animal every time.
Like golden falcon shoot or whatever,
panther shoot.
Yeah.
There is the appearance of the rival team, who may as well be evil team from Shaolin Soccer, with how hilariously over the top they are. It's just a fun, goofy bit of filler. And on a more serious note, I think the reason that the show can do this is because they have established the characters so well that you can just sort of drop them into this and have their personalities clash with the stupidity of the situation, right?
I think that's true because this episode is very clearly very self-aware of how much it plays the hits. Like, you can see every punchline coming from a mile away. Heck, even like the main quote-unquote punchline that Norb never had any reason to make them play soccer, like, is transparent from the first second. And that sort of theme reverberates throughout the episode. Like, every time you think, like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen, and that's exactly what happens. Holland heroically stands up and takes off his jersey and is like, I'm joining in, and then the next thing is if Gilligan cut to them being like behind 36 points.
Yes.
It's just playing the hits, but it works because we know these characters and love these characters, and that's also how we can get to things like, the little subplot with Stoner, Hap, and Matthew trying to find out Norb's true motives.
Right, trying to unravel
it. They're kind of a Greek chorus, honestly, in the sense that they keep, we occasionally cut to shots of them just sitting back and kind of like debating the purpose of everything that's going on and pointing out how goofy everything is.
Doing our job for us. Like, the football is a metaphor for Renton's journey through adulthood, and
trading themselves up by drinking beer behind like the back of the
God
stuff. Yeah, there's just some really fun goofs in this episode, I think, and so perhaps this is sappy. It's also really nice just to see Renton and Eureka having fun, Like, Eureka smiles so much in this episode, it's almost unnerving.
Well, when she's not telling, Renton to not hold us back with your, inability to pass.
Destroyed, like he dies.
Renton's emotional destruction at that remark is so good. But yes, no, I totally get what you mean, Zigg.
it's even funnier because she is completely oblivious to emotionally destroying him. Like he just like he is still hanging on her every word, and she is just like, "Get it together, man." It's
Yeah, I think because of the direction this show is taking, right? Like, this is a very common thing in sort of long runners like this, where you have that episode that is sort of the shoo out the clowns, as I think sometimes what's referred to as like this. If I recall correctly, this is not like the last moment of levity in all of Eureka 7, but this is kind of the last episode where you could say levity is a major component of the episode. Like, we're not going to send Renton out on dumb pranks anytime soon after this, right? Like, Dewey has taken over the government. The sages are dead. It's going bad.
This episode ends with a rather out of place Dewey appearance.
Yes,
honestly, like
the sages were cruelly murdered by Corellians with
definitely
guns.
Not me. I was nowhere near the murdering place.
The sages were shot by these Corellian 9mm rounds.
Yes, which they were holding with their tentacles.
But yeah, it is lovely, and it is nice to see. Yeah, I think like ultimately what is so charming about this episode, despite the like inherent goofiness of the premise, is this is kind of a reward for the Gekkostate crew as a whole. Like, obviously, much of the development has been focused on Renton and Eureka, but also Holland and Talho. And I think the Gekkostate crew as a whole, they've become closer, right? They have become united in common purpose in a way you could not have. This Gekkostate crew could not be doing what they are doing now in this dumb football game 30 episodes ago.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is a good sign that they are now the kind of gang who can have wacky hijinks together. There and this is. I will say that my anecdotal evidence and certainly my own personal experiences, for that reason, this episode is like weirdly memorable. A lot of fans of the show remember this episode really well. It is, in fact, even referenced in Eureka 7 AO as well. There's a weird football section in that as well. It's just very memorable.
I mean, I can understand it because it is, on one hand, it sort of pays homage to an anime classic. But on the other hand, it also stands out by the fact that it is in the show's second half, whereas these kinds of episodes are normally in the first half when the stakes are a little bit lower. The fact that it becomes more memorable because the stakes are higher, and as a result, you now know and like the characters, and you see the value in seeing them goof off like this. And the fact that it's just like on its own a good solid episode with funny gags, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you say, we don't often get fun goofball episodes this late into a show's run, and so I think, as we've been saying, this kind of is sort of a reward to the viewer, a fun moment before we plunge into the final plot arc there. But yeah, I don't really think there's a huge amount more to say about this episode, right? There's not really much to analyze or turn over here. It's just a very fun, very silly episode.
I do have one question.
Sure, go for it.
Where does this rank in the GLORIO sports episode pantheon?
I think it's solidly above average, but I don't think we're quite getting up to brand new animal baseball episode level here.
They don't kill Winnie the Pooh. That is a big slight against it.
Well, they don't kill Winnie the Pooh on screen.
It's a very good one. It's a very charming one. But yes, I think solidly above the middle of the pack for me.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, as we've been saying, a lot of the humour comes from the character-based interactions, and in that sense, it's perhaps less a pure comedy piece and more kind of a part of the show's emerging narrative there. But also, there's a lot of silly stuff there, so I think that it's a solidly above average, but not necessarily quite verging into the hilariously over the top area there. With that said, let's move on to episode 40, a big one there. This is Cosmic Trigger. Now, before we get to our musical reference, there is one other important musical reference we must talk about, and that is our final new opening and ending. Our opening here is Sakura, and our ending is Canvas, I believe. So, Aqua, how do you feel about Amazing Freaking Grace?
I'm honestly a bit disappointed.
Oh,
Like you guys said that this would be something insane, and I was like,
I don't know.
Yeah, this sure is an like violin-driven symphonic anime pop song that interpolates Amazing Grace. Like, this isn't even the first anime pop song that interpolates Amazing Grace I've ever heard.
But it might be the best one.
Oh yeah, I think it's a good opening. I think it's a fun opening. It's just I expected something completely out of left field. Like, I expected frigging rap metal or something.
Oh, come on.
We've already had our designated rap opening anyway.
I guess so. No, I mean, I think it's good. Yeah.
Depending on the day of the week you ask me, like, the combination of visuals and music, this might be my favorite Eureka 7 OP. Like,
I would handily declare it my second favorite after Days.
That's the thing, right? It really is just like it is in a dead heat with Days, but there's something like just so, like, again, if we talk about, like, I mean, especially the vibe and like the thing that is so appealing about, I think all the Eureka 7 OPs, right? Like, even 3, which I think has like kind of visuals on the rougher end, it's like there's this constant sense of like optimism and hope in the Eureka 7 OPs, and I think the 4th one, Sakura, like, is really exemplary in that, right? Like, it really does feel like an end of the journey OP. Like, the visuals,
that is the
right?
thing,
like,
right? Yeah, yes. This, like I said, it has this sense of hope. It shows the maturity of the characters and the sort of epic scale of the conflict to come. Like, you literally see it in the visuals that they almost go into space, whereas like the visuals for Days were very grounded, very like chill, hanging out with the crew, doing some surfing, whereas this feels a lot more like a cosmic opera, right?
Yeah, I think that, as you say, it keeps the Eureka 7 vibe, but it is a very heightened, almost histrionic version of it. It's big, it's symphonic, it's a little over the top there. We have some terrific visual work here. I love the shot of the end slicing through the Corallians, and then we zoom in to see Anemone crying in the cockpit.
It's so good.
It contains maybe the single best shot in the entire show, which is Gulliver bouncing on the bed.
Like, not one, but like 3 goddamn Etano circuses in this OP.
There is even a glimpse at a mysterious new mech, which perhaps will show up in upcoming episodes there. We have some Renton and Eureka falling through the air. We have lots and lots of robots flipping out. We have mysterious split-second cuts to weird imagery. It's really a greatest hits of all the stuff we've seen so far.
I am kind of disappointed that it sort of spoils that Eureka is going to get an appearance change.
I mean, yes, but her hair's going to grow back.
Yeah.
I think as far as spoiler openings goes, this one is pretty good at hiding most of the stuff.
Yeah, I think this is mostly just like a personal thing, because I have said on this podcast many times that I admire their bravery in like making Eureka look not 100% convenient, like conventionally attractive. And it was like, she's going to go back to having like nice fair skin and cute hair again.
Some stuff is going to happen.
Right, sure. I already have my theories as to how her hair will spontaneously grow back, but yeah, sure.
Well, we'll see. But like, I will say that, like, I think that I think that her kind of final appearance, and this is the last time they will futz about with her hair and everything, sort of fits as kind of like it feels like she has matured beyond the character, beyond the short-haired littlest cancer patient look at this point, right?
She has Detroit become human.
Yes,
look, it's hairstyle equals character development. All right.
Yes,
but
there will be some other stuff with Eureka's appearance, which we will get into as we come up to it. But they are not done with storytelling through the way she looks there. But
it is also probably a little bit of like the caveat of animated fiction, in which I don't know exactly the time span that the last, like, let's say 15 or so episodes have been, but I think quote unquote realistically, Eureka's hair should have been steadily growing back this whole time, but like communicating that to your animators and coordinating every 3 to 4 episodes, draw her hair like an inch longer is just like not viable. So it's just, well, this is her character design from episodes 27 to 39, and then here's her character design from these episodes, right?
And I mean, you can always excuse it by like, oh, she's not human, so whatever.
Yeah, sure, that's a Corallian did it.
It's magic. I ain't got to explain shit.
Yes, but there was, this is a great opening. There's some great cuts in it. I love the cut of Eureka and Renton riding on the board, which transitions into them falling, which transitions into them falling into the Navash. It is a top quality ending. It is a top quality opening for a top quality segment of the show there. We even get a little glimpse at the Agaheh squad in patented fisheye O vision, which is always enjoyable. And yes, there are a few, if you know what to look for, there are a few little hints of things which are to come there. So I'm sure we will go back and have a poke about in it as time goes by.
Also, Cruel's Angel's thesis.
What about Cruel Angel?
I mean, it sounds kind of like it. It looks kind of like it.
I don't know, but I mean, okay,
it has the like operatic opening with the sort of like messianic imagery.
I guess, but it is not. I mean, what's the meme? There's like the meme that's like the beginning of Cruel Angel's thesis, and it shows like Jesus, and then the rest of the song, which is Jesus breakdancing on the floor. I think that the two halves of the song are a little less matched than that. I mean, like the concept of using like a vaguely ethereal song to go with a mecha show or an action sci-fi show is much older than Ava.
Right. It's just, this is sort of what I was talking about when this gives the sort of more epic vibes than the first 2 OPs, which were very deliberately like almost slice of lifey, like having this sense of innocent adventure.
To a certain extent. I mean, Daeres has the weird, like I would say that Daeres is almost more like the Ava OP in that it has the timed cuts to random mysterious images. I mean, the Evangelion OP is a very like symbolism and kind of like static image driven opening for the most part. And I think one of the things about Sakura is that it is almost in constant motion. So I'm not sure that I 100% agree with
Besides, Sakura's got Holland giving the Camille thumbs up. Like how could you ever see Gendo Akari giving such a supportive thumbs up?
I don't know. Is Gendo the Holland equivalent here? I don't know. I think it's mostly just like some of the imagery that reminded me of Ava. Right?
I do get it,
like the shot of the Agaheh squad with the fisheye lens, for example.
Sure, yes, and I mean, like, we are moving into the sort of apocalyptic, like science magic stuff that Ava brought to the genre so effectively there. Yes, but like I said, I think this is great. I personally, I'm a little bit less hot on this ending there. Canvas by Coulon.
Yeah, same. I think I kind of get the like what it's trying to do, right? Like visually, like it is trying to almost take this like photojournalist-esque like.
So what I'll say is that the ending that this reminds me of the most is the ending to Mobile Suit Gundam 0080, which also ends with like a montage of children in war against the backdrop of war and stuff like that.
The problem is this just doesn't really read Eureka 7 to me. Like, clearly this war happened in the Eureka 7 universe, but the way it looks, the way people are dressed is more like, to me, just feels like, did they just take a bunch of Holocaust pictures and draw like anime characters on them? No, I mean,
no. I know exactly where I was.
Yeah, I know the vibe.
The vibe,
that exact vibe,
the clothes
yes.
that they are wearing,
Yes.
the style of buildings around them. And it's like, this does not read to me as the Eureka 7 universe. This reads to me way more like they're trying to invoke World War II.
Yeah.
Like,
and the thing is, like, even though war has been part of the vibe and backdrop of Eureka 7, this is very much not a war story. You know, it is a much breezier, more high concept story than
at least not
down
in
and
this
dirty.
way.
Yeah, than a down and dirty war story. You know, and I think particularly jarring is the appearance of recognizable characters, most notably Anemone and Dominic in the ending there. It's an interesting choice. It kind of feels like it's reaching for a gravitas that the show just does not have in that way.
I think it's also like there's also that aspect of like kind of similar to the previous ED. There's almost like an AU quality to what is being evoked here. Like it's like, oh, are we trying to evoke the like an even more brutal take on the Eureka 7 setting? But
I mean, that's kind of how I feel too. Until they revealed that final shot of, Eureka in her soldier uniform, I really got the idea of like, oh, this is sort of like the previous ending. Like, what if these characters had lived in a more grounded, realistic, historic war, right? And not, oh, this is literally footage from the war that happened X years ago in the universe's canon.
Yeah, and that's why, to loop back around to Gundam 0080, that's why it works in that context, because that is a story about a war and a story about the juxtaposition of the innocence of children against the mechanics of warfare. And Eureka 7 is a show about a lot of things, but it's not necessarily about that. It's a much more, not outlandish, but kind of less realistic, for want of a better word. That's not the right word here.
High concepts, I mean, it is very much a show about how to deal with the fallout of a war rather than what is going on in a war, right?
Yeah, it's more like the war is kind of just a background element. It's not important to the story that's being told. I will say as well that I think that the way that this song has been chopped up for this ending is not great. And if you ever have a chance to listen to the full version, I think it flows a little better. It's still not. It's a completely fine, J-pop song, but I don't think they cut it particularly well for this ending.
Yeah.
Picking your favorite Eureka 7 ED is a lot easier than picking your favorite Eureka 7 OP.
Yes, it's. I feel like there is a very clear tier list of the endings there. Yeah. This is the weakest of them. I don't think that that's too much of a. It's also perhaps the most dated of them. The heavy use of record scratching is a very early 2000s artifact, in my opinion.
Honestly, that was already out of fashion when this show came out. So,
yeah, but also it's Japan.
Yeah.
So, they're a little behind the... But yeah, the ending is fine. It's not a disaster, but it's certainly not as good as Tip Tap's Tip, which we just had, and definitely, in my opinion, at least the weakest of the Eureka 7 endings. We'll dive into the episode in a second, but first, Aqua, what can you tell us about the musical reference here, Cosmic Trigger?
This episode is named after Cosmic with 2 Ks, because poor literacy is cool. Cosmic Trigger 5.1 by Harold Blukel, who is a German musician best known under an alias Cosmic Baby.
Hell yeah, that's an electronic music number,
yes. Right? And the thing is, like, this is a relatively hard track to pin down, not because it's hard to find, but because there's many different songs by Blukel by this name. And it's a bit of a complicated history. Like, the song originally appeared as Cosmic Trigger 5.1 on his debut album, Stellar Supreme, which is coincidentally also a great name for a Eureka 7 episode. And then it sort of turned out that it is literally a 5.1, so it is a shorter version of 5.0, which is the fifth version of a track that had sort of been circulating in clubs all over, but never officially released. And then he compiled all of the different versions of Cosmic Trigger on an EP, which was released in like 2008. So that's after Eureka 7 even came out.
That's fascinating to me because I always assumed it was called Cosmic Trigger 5.1 because it was mixed in surround sound.
But it has nothing to do with surround sound. It is just...
That's wild.
Because like the 5.1 version is very weird. Like when you listen to it on the album, it is only slightly over a minute long, and it is mostly an ambient intro to a different song altogether called Sweet Dreams for Ka. Like, so it seems like Blukel kind of reworked an existing track he had into an opening for another track on his album. And the thing is, like, the song is seen as this kind of like manifesto. It is a very early like trance track, and it has the like trance female robotic voice saying things about like, enter the future. This is the new sound. Where we are going, we do not need roads. We do not need rules. Like this very kind of like 90s come, let's all come together. God is a DJ, you know, on the dance floor. There will be world peace sort of vibe going on. And that was like deliberately what Blukel was going for. He described the song as a manifesto for the sound of the future.
But he described it as that sincerely rather than ironic. Because like what you're describing is absolutely something that would be the setup to a punchline today.
Oh, absolutely. Like this is the planet of the bass joke, right?
Yes.
But like Blukel is somewhat noticeable in this scene in that he is like an electronic music producer who was classically schooled. Like he went to conservatory at age 7. And he later became known for incorporating like melodies from Debussy and things in his trance compositions. Sure. So he's sort of one of the guys who shifted electronic music away from being about vibes and rhythm to being more melodic, right? Having like melodies and arpeggios and sort of chord progressions taken from classical music to almost create a narrative out of like a genre of music that up until then was mostly associated with underground clubbing and things like that.
Sure, that an interesting evolution. What this tells me mostly is that it's going to be really difficult to find the right track to embed in the post. Right?
So yeah, that's the thing. Like you have Cosmic Trigger 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and then 5.1, and they all sound kind of different. Like they have the same vibe going on. They all have that woman saying things about how the future is cool, but they're sort of all variances on the same idea. Like this is not the case where like you have a central motif that is being repeated all over. Like these tracks go all over the place, but they sort of are different incorporations of the same vision, if that makes sense.
See, that was Blue Shell's big mistake here. The future is not, in fact, cool.
Alas.
All right. Speaking of the future not being cool, let's talk a little about the content of this episode. We learn a lot of things about the world of Eureka 7 in this episode.
It is getting kind of comical at this point, where it's like they will reveal something about the world. It's like, yes, Renton, don't you know about this thing which was just off the side and it has never been mentioned before?
He wasn't paying attention in school.
Yeah.
To be fair to the show, I would say that like most of the stuff that's revealed in this episode is concerning the Vodorak, and the impression that we have been given up to this point is that the Vodorak are kind of a black box to anybody but the Vodorak.
Yes.
They're a very obscure thing, but there are also like millions of them.
I mean, like, if you think about the population of a planet, you could have like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people and still be a pretty small thing, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
I mean, they live in a world where like magazines are still an effective form of information transferal, so
I mean, they live in a world where like aliens can attack and destroy an entire city, and it somehow can be like covered up.
Covered up, yeah.
I mean, like, is Dewey really covering up alien attacks? Isn't he kind of propagandizing them? He's not denying that they've happened, certainly.
I guess so, but
Remember,
he was totally like, oh, the capital is being attacked, and everyone was like, oh no, and you need no footage of this to prove this. Like,
hey man, the capital was attacked.
Yeah.
What more proof do you need there? But I mean, I think the most important thing we learn in this episode is that Norb, the super powerful monk, is not in fact super powerful when it comes to the Vodorak. And in fact, the Vodorak, which up to this point we have seen as a sort of very unified, sort of not all consuming, but like all embracing belief system, is in fact just as fractured and discordant as real belief systems are.
Yeah, and that Vodorak, that Norb is seen as sort of like a fringe ideologue who has followers, but who is not the mainstream of the Vodorak beliefs.
Which is kind of weird because from what we see, even to the like heretic sect, which is now in control of the Vodorak, he's still kind of their Jesus figure, right? To some extent.
I mean, I think that's interesting because that sort of mirrors him to Adrock, who is also being invoked by everyone as this kind of mystical martyr figure by both the good guys and the bad guys. And I think this is sort of an analog to that, right? That the symbol of a person is more important than what that person actually did or said. Like, to the Myodo sect, Norb is a useful tool, even if they will not actually heed his teachings. They know that people revere him, so they will be like, oh, Norb says that it's like this, and whereas they actually try to push the actual Norb into the margins. So
right, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it, because like I think the difference is that perhaps the sect only see Norb as important as a conduit to Sakuya, who is their real kind of god figure there. And clearly, as we see as they journey through the catacombs, there have been many attempts to emulate Norb, but not in the way you would hope for, and in a way ickier and more messed up way than one would hope for, really.
I mean, they make a big show and dance about like a new saint having been born, right? Who was supposedly the umpteenth person who was going to take Norb's place and truly awake Sakuya from her slumber. And Norb has already realized that this is all just a bunch of pomp and circumstance.
Well, yeah, because we see what those saints entail, and it turns out it's fuck yourself up by putting a compact drive in your chest and then die, because that ain't meant to happen.
Yeah, there is a lot of like messed up sort of like Buddhist horror imagery in this episode. The decayed corpses of monks who meditated themselves to death and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to evoke that imagery, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's an interesting take because it's a much darker spin on a religion which up till now has been presented as a very, sort of all-knowing, all-benevolent religion. Up to now, we have had no reason to doubt that the Vodorak were. As the audience, we know that the mystical outsiders will always be the ones with the answers to the question.
Right.
We know that just because we know how stories are created.
Yeah, and it's also like, okay, sure, some Vodorak did commit some terrorist acts on screen, but it was always framed as these are like the good freedom fighters, they would never go too far, they only shoot the bad cops and things like that. So they were very framed as like, very much the religious fringe that turns out to be correct, which is like how these stories always go.
Yeah. I mean, G, what's your take on this? I'm interested to hear your thoughts on sort of some of the themes that are being brought up here.
I think one thing I'm hoping to be reminded of is like how much of this stuff factors into the final like stretch of the plot here, because I don't remember, like, I have recollections of like Norb specifically, but like I don't have strong recollections of the Vodorak as a whole from this point, right? I did recall, oh right, yeah, there's like a ideological split, but even there, I didn't remember like how prominent this sort of like interfaith like schism is, right? And so it's a shame because like, you know, now that I'm older, you can maybe appreciate it more. I am like like it's almost a shame that I think the Vodorak stuff gets touched upon fairly lightly, all said and done. Like we do get interesting insight into their faith and religion and culture in this episode, but kind of purely from a set dressing standpoint. Like,
it kind of feels superfluous, right? Like the Myodo only really appear to be here because we need some stakes. You know, we need a reason why we can't just walk into Vodorak Temple, like,
right?
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, as the viewer, we have the benefit of knowing that actually Norb is correct. You know, he is the true why and everything, and it's difficult, you know, because this is one of the disadvantages of the show juggling so many different ideas and plot lines, is that inevitably, as you focus in on what's going to be your final destination, some of them are going to fall by the wayside a bit. And I don't know about UG, but my memory is that the Vodorak stuff kind of ceases to be super important once we are through this particular section of the story.
Right. And yeah, because it's like, I don't know, like there's neat stuff here, right? Like the parade floats, like this, you know, hell, even just the idea of like a militarized sect, right? It's like, and in some ways, it's like, would they almost not be partially like if you knew the real Norb, if you were like if you were a ride or die member of this religion and you knew the real Norb, would that not in some way shake your faith? Would that maybe not make you decide to found a new branch religion?
What if Jesus was a dirtbag?
Yeah.
What if the Son of the Lord came among us and actually he kind of sucked?
It's.
But also on a more serious note, you know, we know that Norb was the chosen one who failed, right? We already know that he kind of is a failure. Like, clearly, the things he learned and the things that happened between him and Sakuya laid the foundation for this religion. But he's almost like a failed messiah, really. He wasn't able to get the job done, and that's gonna shape any sort of following you have, really.
I mean, that depends on the way you look at it, right? Because to some, he may be a failed messiah, but to others, he may simply be a prophet, you know, who prophesizes the coming of the one who will successfully do what he could not do.
Right, and that's clearly how Norb characterizes himself, right? He is here to spread the good word and await. He is the John the Baptist. He is John the Baptist to Renton's Jesus Christ. The first time I've used the word Jesus Christ Renton in a positive fashion, I have to say. I also feel obliged to point out that one of the floats in the parade looks a lot like Ekans. It looks like they have a giant Ekans float there.
Hey, why wouldn't you want to pay homage to Ekans?
You could pick better Pokemon to pay homage to, like Wobbuffet. But the thing is though, although this, you know, we have sort of come down on the line that a lot of this stuff is set dressing for the actual story. It's really interesting set dressing, you know,
totally.
and the aesthetic of this episode is very enjoyable, even if it is, you know, it might feel a little bit like religious tourism on one level, but there's some cool stuff here, like hiding the robots inside the floats, this big secret underground lair that has been built / grown for Sakuya. You know, I think it's all good, exotic, fun stuff to put on screen.
Absolutely, yeah. It sort of gives. It does the thing that this kind of imagery is supposed to do, as in it implies a world that is much bigger than it is on paper. Like, you can look at some of the like floats that the Vodarek pilgrims are pulling along, or you could look at their clothes you could look at the architecture and the imagery that is evoked in many of these shots, and you can sort of imagine, or it sparks the imagination of like, what is this religion about? What are its values? You see the brief shots of the Myodo sect, and you can sort of, it gets you thinking of like, okay, why are they heretics? In what way are they different from Norb's teachings? Because that is never made fully explicit. Like the most evil thing they do is sort of wallop in false prophecies and mislead people. And there's a lot of like implication there that is unspoken that you can sort of fill in for yourself.
Yes, and again, we are butting up against the idea that their role in the story is largely to provide resistance, but I think what they represent in terms of comparison to Norb is that they represent sort of a perversion of Norb's ideas and concepts, right? Which is kind of a thing which the show has been going back to again and again, right? In the same way that like Dewey is a perversion of Adrock's concepts and ideas, taking the genuine discoveries he's made, the breakthroughs, the enlightenment that he found, and sort of twisting it to evil ends.
Yeah,
the cult sort of represents, I mean, they're not even a cult, but like the Splinter movement represents kind of that same sort of enlightenment wedded with superstition. Like the whole
idea...
thing with the saints and sort of the desperate grasping at an idea beyond what they understand, so all they can do is this sort of pathetic imitation.
Yeah,
right?
it's sort of like has this impression of them not seeing the forest for the trees, right? They are doing religion for religion's sake rather than...
Right, it's dogma.
Yeah, it is... Oh, God. I lost what I wanted to say. It is sort of a simulacrum of... It is the rites and the dogma, but without the meaning behind it. And, to quote a man who had a beautiful way with words, perhaps the same could be said of all religions.
I also want to talk a little bit about, because there's a small but important subplot here, and that subplot is that somehow Talho has like a huge scale plamo of the gecko, and I want to know where I can buy that. And I guess there's also some stuff with Eureka confronting her guilt as well. But...
yeah.
Well, the plamo is clearly Holland's, right? They share a room. It's Holland's.
But
because
the thing
he's
is, like,
a little boy who likes his toy planes.
But this is not... We've seen Talho and Holland's room, and this is not that.
No, this is clearly a different room. Yeah.
And also, she's filing the instruction manual in a file that's marked to Moondoggy.
Yes.
So, and like the idea of Moondoggy building plastic models of the plane he's flying around in, very believable.
Yeah, or maybe she has the plastic model so she can like use it to teach him this is where the engine is.
Yes.
And like,
I mean, the idea of the Gecko, which again is a stolen prototype Federation ship, and a scale model of it exists somewhere, like potentially as a commercial product, is a very funny idea to me.
All I'm saying is, Bandai, you're sitting on a gold mine here. Don't let it pass. There.
Okay, Moondoggy, touch the part where the man touched you on the replica of the gecko.
Yeah, no. Joking aside, I do really like this scene between Talho and Eureka in the bedroom. It is meaningful without being saccharine. It is sweet without being overwhelming. I do like a good pillow fight, and I think it's a good example of how these two characters have matured and their relationship has matured. Because remember, for a lot of this show, Talho has hated Eureka's guts.
She has truly evolved by becoming less. She has become less shitty older sister and more One-san.
Indeed, yes. But I think again, it's another mark of how the show has been able to naturally evolve its character dynamics and give us scenes like this that don't feel out of place and don't necessarily feel frivolous, but do contribute both, good fun and also a little bit more character development as well. G, as the premier hater of Tradcath Talho, how do you feel about this scene?
I mean, I just have to accept that, the Talho I am looking at is a different character. Talho died on her way back to her home planet. And
no, she fell into a wormhole and had 75% of her problematicness drained from her.
I mean, in all seriousness, it is a good turn for the character. It is a good it is an earned development. Again, we talk about with the previous episode, right? These characters have grown so much in the time we have spent with them that I do not actually dislike this, and I actually really do like the development that is occurring here, the conversations that are being had. It's just I liked it a lot more when she was she was day drinking.
Right. I mean, the thing is also this still has the vibes of I will become a mother, so now I must be responsible and take on my responsibilities as the nurturing figure in the life of these young people.
Yeah, I mean, the bit at the end where Misha comes in and is like, "Oh, hey, by the way, Eureka, you can have children too." Firstly, A, how can you know that? And B, I mean, look, I already did the Shinzo Abe running joke, but
I mean, it's that tweet of I'm against the monarchy, but I do like it when the true king claims his birthright, and it's the opposite of that. Look, I appreciate this character, shedding her immature ways and becoming a person that other people can put their trust in, but also Tradcat vibes bad.
Yeah,
I'm just saying she could have had all this development and just looked the same. We didn't have to give her a haircut.
Wait, who are we talking about now? Talho or Eureka?
Talho, sorry.
But yes, it's and I think that this episode in particular does a good job of This episode in particular does a good job of scattering just very brief little scenes that let us know that other sort of plot lines and emotional lines are whirring away in the background. We get a very brief scene between Dominic and Dewey here, which reveals that Dewey is aware of the question limitation, and also he doesn't give a fuck because it's just an excuse to bomb the shit out of the Corellians.
There's an extremely on-the-nose scene where Dominic is like, "Stop calling Anemone it!"
Yes, and Dewey is vaguely amused by the whole thing.
Yes.
We get Anemone spacing out, which, there may be some signs she's less than mentally stable there.
I mean, this just reads to me as, they pumped her full of drugs to make her not tear the place down.
I mean, she does have an important propaganda role now.
Yeah.
She is the people's princess. And we also get a little bit of a subplot that ties into the main plot here of the children deciding to take things into their own hands as regards what's going on here.
I mean,
maybe now that I'm older, I can turn, I can finally, understand and respect Holland as a character. I understand the journey he took, and maybe I am in fact softer on Holland now. Man, fuck these kids.
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, the thing is, I think this mostly is there for the little bit where, Renton and Eureka discover them, and they do not get mad, right? They're we'll deal with that later. Right now, all hands on deck.
I mean, it's also a reason for the plan to go wrong, so we can have a cool action scene, right?
But I think it's just a nice little, display, because both of these characters would have gotten upset earlier in the show at the kids once again ruining everything. And I don't know, G, if you have 3 kids in a show like this, what else do you want them to do but to cause problems on purpose?
They could discover a plan to bomb your secret underground base. Just saying, that's a way they could be useful.
they could have been single-handedly maybe the most pivotal actors at the Battle of Jaburo.
Hey, they did call the Nervesh the White Devil.
Yes, I had completely forgotten that.
Yes.
But yes, if you want an extremely on the nose shout out, the Vodorak do call the Nervash the White Devil here.
I mean,
an
here,
obvious
totally-
reference to Magical Girl Lyrical Nano.
Of course, naturally.
I was going to say an obvious reference to colonialism.
I mean, here, totally justified. I do sort of like, again, joking aside about the kids, like, the Nervash Type 0 springing to life in the middle of this religious procession is really, like, in universe, like, it's, the hysteria is totally understandable, right? Because we were talking about, like, the robot that is, like, the icon of your people's oppression and genocide.
Yes.
Like, it's, like, busting out of a parade float. Like, it's, I don't know. I guess it's like I can't even think of like a modern equivalent. It's like, I don't know, if like the Taliban poured out of like the Macy's like Thanksgiving Day parade floats.
Okay, see, look, now I need to see that. Like,
like, my God, the Taliban, they're crawling out of the Sonic like balloon.
hold on, I'm writing this down. Taliban. Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade.
We're once again going to have to do the Saddam Hussein hiding place meme, but this time he's hiding inside the Spider-Man float.
Yes. but
yeah, I mean, like, I think I appreciate the emphasis that the show has on keeping the kids together with Eureka as this sort of surrogate family. You know, I think that it would have been very easy to push them aside and relegate them to kind of not even beyond background
to like
characters.
drop them off with Axel or something at the half point of the show.
Yes, but I do appreciate the renewed focus on them. You know, I think that it's important, and you know, I do appreciate that it gives us a chance to see some cool kick-ass action. But yeah, you know, I mean, like let's talk a little bit about the ending of this episode, where we reach, after going through like what feels like 4 or 5 different underground lairs in a row.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? We do finally reach Sakuya, who turns out to be a giant flower.
She's inside the Momotaro peach.
Yes,
or the Purun peach.
The lotus blossom. The symbolism is fairly on the nose, shall we say?
Yeah, and I'm guessing the presence of Renton and Eureka is going to wake her from her slumber, and we will learn all about the beautiful romance between Sakuya and Norb, the super powerful monk.
I mean, look, you saw the episode preview. We also have a return of the experience title.
I mean, I was going to say, if you want the most, like, the most obvious indicator that next episode is going to be, you know,
a
weird.
Big one, yeah.
It's calling it Act Periods. So.
Yes, as we have discussed in the past, this tends to be a title which is applied to episodes which are particularly wacko out the window. So we've got plenty to look forward to there. But, you know, overall thoughts on this episode as a package there. How do we feel about where we are story-wise, sort of, let's say, leading into what is now pretty firmly the final arc of the show?
I think, like, this pair of episodes is a rare instance of, like, the format of this podcast working against it, because up until now, we have had many episodes where we have just like, oh, this is a pair of thematically consistent episodes that are like vague, that can be seen as like 2-parters, whereas this time that is just completely not the case, right? We had one episode that was very strictly like focused on slice of life, character shenanigans, and one episode that is very much about world building and lore, and that is also very much like it just cuts off when the runtime runs out, right?
Yeah,
it is just the first part of a story arc that doesn't really have any thematic through lines that get set up and paid off within the span of a single episode.
Yeah, and I think you can tell that by the somewhat lopsided time that we've spent on the various episodes here. I think that obviously the obviously the format of the show is what it is, and I think that the next two episodes will actually work fairly well as a pair there as we go forward. But
that makes sense.
But yes, this is definitely an episode where I enjoyed both of these episodes, but for almost entirely different reasons.
Yes.
And in terms of, sort of the weightiness of plot going forward, the scales are absurdly lopsided here. That's it for this week on Blue Mondays. I should probably add a programming note here. We will be taking a week off in a fortnight because G is crossing the Great Wall.
Ooh.
I am. Yes. Go. I'm going to. I'm going to the Corellian.
Yep.
I'm going to.
You're going to the mystical realm that is the source of all life and knowledge, Japan.
Yes. Finally doing. Going on the weeb pilgrimage that every anime nerd has entertained some, at least once in their lives.
Indeed,
yes,
I've done it. Now it's your turn. There.
Yes, exactly.
So obviously, G will be in a different time zone, a different part of the world. So we will be taking a well-earned break for next week. G, while you're out there, see if you can get to the bottom of the mysterious Gecko Plamo incident. We demand answers.
Yes, I'll go right to the Mandarake and demand to know where are the Gecko scale models.
Yes. In all seriousness, have a good time. Let us know how it is when you get back there. When you do get back, next episode, we will be covering episode 41, Experience 3, and episode 42, Star Dancer. So just to reiterate, that will be 1 month from today. We are taking a week off in the middle here. And that's it. We will see you guys in a month. If you enjoy what you've heard here, then, please leave us a comment, leave us a like, let us know what you think about the podcast. You can subscribe to us on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, all the normal stuff there. Give us your thoughts. Let us know how much. Please give us angry comments about how we should be calling football soccer or soccer football. We live for that stuff, honestly, there. And thank you very much to my co-host here. Thank you, Aqua.
I finally found what a regista is.
What is it?
It's a creative player who operates in front of the defense, almost always in the central position, and looks to get on the ball as often as possible.
So a holding midfielder?
Basically, yeah. Like a Messi type. Like
Messi was a attacking winger.
Was he? Well, never mind.
Yes. It's okay. He's dead now, and by that I mean he's playing in the United States there. Thank you, G.
Always glad to be on.
Always a pleasure there. And we will catch you guys next time.